All right, welcome back. We're on lesson 3, which is the bass clef. Lesson 2, we talked about the treble clef and staff. But lesson 3, we're talking about the bass clef and the staff. There are two, or they're not, I don't want to just say that there are two staffs or there's two specific types of clef, because there are more different types of clef. You have tenor clef, alto clef, bass clef, and treble clef. But we're only studying the main two, or the major two, that everybody is familiar with, which is the treble clef and the bass clef. All right. Lesson 3 is about the bass clef. So the bass clef is used for notes in the lower pitch ranges. The treble clef was used for those that were in the higher pitch ranges. The bass clef is used for the notes that are in the lower pitch ranges, okay? The bass clef, or F clef, has evolved from a stylized letter F into this, okay? So it looks like a backward C with two, backward C with two eyes, okay? That is the bass clef. The two dots on the bass clef surround the line that the note F is placed. In other words, the fourth line of the bass clef is the note F. Okay? Now, let's talk about that. If the fourth line is the note F, which is written over here, and it was told to us, and that F is the F below middle C. So if we were talking about, remember we were talking about the treble clef started on notes that was above middle C. I had this diagram showing where this is middle C, where my index and ring and middle finger are holding and pointing at. This is middle C, right? We started on the treble clef staff on E, which is 2 notes above middle C. In the bass clef staff, we have to have another side of this which goes down to the F, which is below middle C, which is on the 4th line of the bass clef staff, or on the keyboard is right here, okay? So let's figure out our notes on the bass clef staff and the spaces in the lines, okay? But first we gotta learn how to draw a bass clef. So what you do with the bass clef, you come to the 4th line, add your little fancy little dot, you write you a backward C, okay? Now here's the tricky part, where you put those 2 dots are in the 4th space and the 3rd space. In the 4th space and the 3rd space. And that's how you know that it is a bass clef, because it is on F, okay? Now since we already know that our 4th line of the bass clef is going to be F, and that means that we have to figure out our next note, which is above that, or our note, which is below that. Now, I'm gonna start at the bottom, okay? So, the notes for the bass clef lines are G, B, D, F is already there, and A, okay? Okay? My G keeps turning out ugly and I don't like it. Either way. G, B, D, F, A. Good boys do fine always. Good boys do fine always. Or girls buy dark fudge always, or something like that. Who knows? You know, we don't want to leave the girls out, okay? They can be the best musicians too, okay? So, now that we got our lines, which are G, B, D, F, A, we can come down here and try it again for the spaces. Again, line on the 4th, draw a little backward C, 2 dots on the 4th and 3rd space. Now, remember before with the treble clef, whatever note was on the 1st line was on the 4th space, which means that G being on the 1st line of the bass clef must be G on the 4th space, okay? A being the 5th line of the treble clef, A being the 5th line of the bass clef staff, has to be the 1st space of the bass clef staff, okay? A. Now again, remember, we're in the 2nd space, so what's in the 2nd space? What's between G and B? A. Well, we have that here. What's between B and D? A, B, C, D, C, D, C, D, C, C comes after B, but before D. What comes between D and F? A, B, C, D, E, F. E, F, E. E comes between D and F. So you should be left with A, C, E, G. Okay? Those are the spaces. A, C, E, G, or all cows eat grass. And the lines are good boys do fine always. Good boys do fine always, and all cows eat grass. All right? Now, before we go, I'm going to practice drawing some of these bass clefs. So I'm going to show you again before we go. And we discuss what the homework is telling you to do, okay? On the fourth line, draw a little circle, come back, 2 dots. Come back just like that, 2 dots. Come back just like that, 2 dots. One more time. Dot on the fourth line. Backward C. 2 dots. And that is how you draw the bass clef. The same work that you did on the treble clef for homework, which pretty much was 1, draw a couple of bass clefs, or draw a couple of treble clefs. You're going to draw a couple of bass clefs. They want you to write the letter note names on the following notes that they give to you. So if I were to just draw a random note up here, I drew a random note, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I don't want to look though. Where I'm put this note at, somewhere. I hope I don't fret. Oh, what do you know? It's on the 4th line. So if they, we know that what's on the 4th line is F. Okay, so if they put a note on the 4th line, guess what you're gonna come up here and write? F. If they put a note on the 2nd line or the 2nd space, what's in the 2nd space according to the bass clef? C. Okay. If they were to give you the note D and tell you to write the note D in the bass clef staff, where are you going to put that note D? Well, let's look down here. In my spaces, I don't have a D in my spaces, but on my lines, I got a D, and that's on the 1, 2, 3. That's on the 3rd line. So D is on the 3rd line, okay? You have to, 1, find where the notes are put at and identify the notes that are being placed on the staff already. All right, that's your homework. Let's recap. The bass clef is used for what? The pitches and the lower ranges. The 2 dots on the bass clef surround the line that the note F is placed. F is below middle C. The F of the bass clef is, okay? So the bass clef is made for the lower pitch ranges. The lines on the bass clef staff are good boys do fine always. G, B, D, F, A. And the spaces on the bass clef staff are A, C, E, G. All cows eat grass. Thank you for rocking with me. See you next lesson. Peace.